Welcome back to the Galactosemia podcast. After a short hiatus, we are back. And on this week's episode, Jill and I sat down for a quick conversation to give an update on what it's been like for us to get services through the state of California for a child with galactosemia. It's been a process that we've been going through for the last several months, and we wanted to share how that's been going. We also do a quick check-in on how our food journey has been going. We've hit the 1-year mark with Elliot, and so there's a little bit of that as well. Before we jump in, a few quick updates. Like I said, we've been on a little bit of a hiatus in the month of July for this show. We had a ton of travel in our family, and transparently, Elliot brought home a virus for the whole family once he started daycare. So we are actually still recovering from being sick. You'll probably hear that in today's episode, as I actually have to step away a few times for some coughing fits. So that's super fun, but no more hiatus. We are back, and I have some great episodes coming up soon. I just confirmed a couple of bookings for some guests that I'm really excited for, patients, experts. There's some good episodes coming up, so stay tuned for those. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the project through the Galactosemiapodcast.com and signs up for a membership. A special shout out to Barry McCall and Clayton Beard, our latest members who recently signed up to give their support. They get these episodes at least a day early and without any ads. And if you would like that too, you can support the show by going to the Galactosemiapodcast.com. Okay, let's jump into this week's episode. Again, you'll have to forgive the fact that we both sound completely stuffed up in today's episode, but here it is, episode 19 with me and Jill.
The Galactosemia podcast.
Okay. Welcome back times 2 to the Galactosemia podcast. Full transparency, I just made one of the most rookie mistakes that a podcast person can make, and I work in the industry as an executive producer. I forgot to hit record.
We just had like a 20-minute
We went for 30 minutes.
That didn't get recorded. I'm never coming back here again.
I gave my wife the worst experience that a podcast person could give, and I apologize for that. That is on me. I did not hit the big red button that says record on the audio recorder. So we're going to shorten
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. We're going to do it again.
We're going to do it again.
And we're going to shorten it a little bit.
Why don't we tell everyone like why this is like a different special episode?
So this is a little bit of a different episode because it's just going to be us, you and I talking without an outline. We've got a couple of topics that we want to hit, and it's really special.
You keep forgetting. Okay.
No, it's really special. I was going to get there because Elliot just turned a year old.
He's 1.
And so this is a little bit of update of where we're at with services for Elliot and his food journey and what it's
like
been like. A reflection. What it's been like with us for the past 6 months to a year with just all of those things specifically. And I just can't believe that we already had this full conversation.
It's okay. They don't know what they
Listeners
missed.
they don't know what they missed.
So the first one was fantastic.
It was awesome. I wish you could have heard it. I wish you could have been there. It was one of those you kind of had to be there kind of things.
But Elliot's 1.
Elliot's 1.
He's sleeping in the room next door.
He's doing great.
He is doing great.
So let's start with services.
Yes.
Why don't you give an overview for anyone who's listening, new and doesn't understand kind of what state services are or why they're important?
Yeah.
Give us a little recap of that.
So legally, the state is required to provide learning services, developmental services for any child that qualifies. And this includes from the age of 0 to 21 years old. And this is like through your district, through your regional center.
Yeah.
And when those services are occurring for a child that's between the ages of 0 and 3, they're called early intervention services. And they're free to you because you pay taxes into that district. And that's one of the things that you're paying for.
Yeah.
So you do have to apply. Your child has to be eligible, and the eligibility process takes some time. And so we started that process in like mid-February. And the word that I would use to describe the process of getting set up with learning services for Elliot is slow.
I know you're going to say that because you already said this. We should also preface this with the fact that we're both sick at its current moment.
Oh, yeah. Elliot started daycare and we got our first daycare bug. So apologies for that as well.
Yeah. So we're recovering. If we sound clogged, that's what it is. But we wanted to recap that journey through getting approved for these services. Spoiler alert, we were approved.
Yeah.
He is getting services right now. And we knew through really doing the podcast that because he has galactosemia, he should be getting services.
Yeah.
And we should apply for this.
Yeah.
And so if your son or daughter has galactosemia, it's something that you should look into in your region as well. How did you start that process?
Okay. So actually, Dr. Nancy Potter, in your interview with her, said that a great first place to start is to contact your school district. So that's where I started. I talked to the special education department at our local school district, who told me to contact the West Side Regional Center. And I think that might be specific too because we live in Los Angeles. But there is this separate organization called the West Side Regional Center that covers early intervention services for our area that we live in.
Right.
At some point, and I don't fully remember why, maybe just because I was eager, I also contacted the state level called Early Start. Early Start is the California state program that covers early intervention. And they also put me in touch with the West Side Regional Center.
We essentially took every avenue
Yeah.
that we could to figure out how we started this process. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same when they're trying to get services.
Yeah.
Like, try everything.
And my biggest concern was that we were going to get denied because Elliot
He was meeting milestones.
He was like very much on track with his development, which is fantastic. But like the sooner, I know from many conversations with educators of children, the sooner you start intervention services of any type, the better the outcomes are.
Right.
And so I was afraid that he was going to be deemed ineligible. And so then I also like looked up
The law
and for California and copied and pasted and like referenced like the section of the law that makes him eligible.
So step one was reaching out to all of the different people that we could find, like how do we start this process? We were given an application.
Yeah, like an intake form application.
So we filled out this intake form application. You quoted the law. They asked for references as well. I got a letter from his geneticist, a letter from his pediatrician, both saying that he has galactosemia and he should be approved for these services. And then we gave them research that showed the same thing.
Yeah. And I think all of that was really helpful too because galactosemia is so rare. And so there are other conditions that a parent may be applying for that are more familiar, even just like preterm baby. And so we knew galactosemia was so rare. And so we wanted to make sure we were informing the people that were going to be reviewing the application. And just filling out the application is just step one of the application process. There was an interview with us, which included a short Zoom video to make sure like Elliot lived within the house with us, and do like a over the camera assessment of him. And then 2 evaluators came, one physical therapist, and then I guess like the other one was an occupational therapist.
Yeah.
And they did these infant assessments to check for certain milestones and they wrote up a report of their findings, and all of that got submitted to a review panel.
Right.
And this is where we asked if we could be a part of the meeting where this review panel would be looking over his file.
Right. And One of the things we knew going in was that speech therapy would be a huge focus for us of something that we knew we needed and we knew we wanted.
Every single person I talked to along the way, even when I first just called and was like, am I submitting my application to the right spot? And I would talk about speech therapy. Every single person along the way was like, speech therapy is typically never approved for before 18 months.
Right. We heard that over and over and over again. So we went in knowing that one of the things we were going to have to advocate for was speech therapy. And we asked Dr. Potter to come with us into the meeting.
Which you can legally ask an advocate to join you in any and all meetings throughout this process. Ryan has to take a coughing break. So we asked Dr. Nancy Potter to join us in that as well. And I think I'm glad we went. I'm very glad we went in because we were able to speak to an entire panel. And on that panel, there's a neurologist, there's a speech therapist, there's a physical therapist, there's people from the Westside Regional Center, there's consultants from all these different areas to share their expertise. And so we had a lot of ears to hear our case and our plea for speech therapy before the age of 18 months. But I don't think that was the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting was really just to decide, like, is he eligible for services, not which services he's eligible for. But we went in just knowing that there was going to be a panel of individuals that we could share this information with about Babel Boot Camp because it's such a new program. So Dr. Nancy Potter joined us. Ryan gave a fantastic statement about pioneering something new and not being afraid to, start a new normal when something new such as Babel Boot Camp comes along. And he's going to share that now. He recorded it, so we're going to paste that in here now.
First of all, just thank you all for taking the time to consider our case. We really appreciate you giving us the time to make a statement to you as well. I know we sent over a lot of research and information, but I wanted to take 5 minutes to quickly highlight what we feel are the most important considerations. So like I said, my name is Ryan Fawcett. I'm joined by my wife, Jillian Fawcett, as well as Dr. Nancy Potter, who is kind enough to join us today. Our son, Elliot, is sleeping in the next room over, and Elliot was born on August 3rd, 2024. We brought him home 3 days after that, and we were overwhelmed with love. One day after we brought him home, we got the call that his newborn screening had flagged positive for classic galactosemia, and by day 10, that diagnosis was confirmed. Galactosemia is an ultra-rare genetic condition. It's so rare that Elliot's pediatrician at UCLA, one of the top medical groups in one of the largest cities in the world, had never treated a case before, and statistically, she most likely will never treat another one. We've learned a ton in the last 8 months, and I even started a podcast called the Galactosemia Podcast so that I can talk to experts in the field. But in our everyday life, whenever we talk to people about galactosemia, most are curious and they've never heard of it. They ask questions. But surprisingly, the people who may have heard of the name galactosemia before, often those with a little bit of medical training or a lot of medical training, tend to stop at surface level understanding. They'll say, right, galactosemia, that's the one where you can't do dairy, you can't have dairy. And they'll say that as if it's the beginning and the end. But galactosemia is far more than that. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So galactosemia isn't just a dietary restriction. It's a profound metabolic disorder. In your body and in my body, galactose is broken down into glucose and then into usable energy. And in Elliot's body, that process does not happen the same way. Instead, toxic byproducts, galactitol and galactose-1-phosphate build up. And those aren't just harmless leftovers. They're damaging to cells and to systems, especially in infants. And it's why early identification and intervention are so critical. Without it, the disease leads to liver failure, neurological damage, and death. But Elliot was diagnosed and removed from dairy early, and that saved his life. but it won't by itself protect his future because his body still produces these toxic substances endogenously. We know that. That's why the question shifts from survival to outcomes. What happens next? What can we do to help him thrive? And we already know what the data says. Speech sound disorders affect up to 85% of children with galactosemia. Childhood apraxia of speech affects up to 63%. And to put that in perspective, childhood apraxia of speech affects 0.1% of children in the general population. That means that Elliot is somewhere between 600 and 800 times more likely than a typical child to develop childhood apraxia of speech. But there is something that we can do. We can intervene early. Dr. Nancy Potter, who is with us today, she is a renowned speech pathologist with over 4 decades of experience and has dedicated much of her career to studying speech outcomes in children with galactosemia. Her research, published in the American Journal of Speech Language Pathology, showed that early intervention starting as young as 6 months old significantly improved expressive vocabulary outcomes for children with galactosemia. It's not theoretical. It has been tested. The intervention is called Babel Boot Camp, and it was launched publicly in July of 2024. It's brand new. It's the first proactive speech therapy program designated specifically for infants. It was tested and proven in children with Elliot's exact diagnosis. And yet, here we are, we're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole of policy because we've been told time and time again that California typically does not offer speech services before 18 months. People that have worked with the regional center for decades say they've never seen speech services be approved before 18 months. 18 months is the standard. But that standard, we believe, is outdated. It's not created with this new data and new program in mind. At one point in time, standard operating procedure was to keep children with disabilities in separate classrooms or not educate them at all. It was once standard to allow smoking in restaurants and on airplanes. It was once standard to recommend lobotomies. But what changed? Knowledge, evidence, and the people that were willing to act on it. Because when we know better, we do better. And this panel has an opportunity to be another first, just like the first inclusive classroom, the first handicap accessible school, the first early intervention law. There was a time when each of those ideas was new, and now they are baseline expectations because someone said yes for the first time in the best interest of a child. So we're asking you to do the same. We're asking you to consider a request that may be a little bit unprecedented in your system, not because we want special treatment, but because we want evidence-based treatment. We know better now. The data is here. The tools are here. We no longer need to wonder whether speech therapy support in infants works or not. We know it does. We simply need to choose to make it available. And so thank you for your consideration, and we would welcome any questions that you have for us.
And then what followed from that was a lot of questions from this review panel. There was a speech therapist, like I said, on it that had a lot of questions, ended up getting in touch with Dr. Nancy Potter after the fact. They asked about like Elliot's need for it, but also about like, how do they get trained? And, you know, maybe we could start him with occupational therapy and then do speech therapy starting at 18 months. And Dr. Nancy Potter was able to jump in and say, well, we actually did that in our original research, and the babies that got Babel Boot Camp right away showed more growth. So she was wonderful to have in that meeting with us, and she did tell Ryan that any other families within the galactosemia community that want to be in touch with her, she is willing to share her information, so we can share that with you if you're interested. So we have this review panel conversation. We find out Elliot is approved for services. We don't know which ones yet. And the next step is that we're assigned a service coordinator. She came over and brought our individualized family service plan, which showed that Elliot was going to receive occupational therapy and infant stimulation, which is like play therapy and not speech therapy. And we knew this was coming. So we gave another passionate plea to our service coordinator to try and help advocate for us that we really believe that speech therapy will be beneficial to him. She did a great job doing that. Eventually, Elliot did get approved for speech therapy. So he was approved for those 3 services. And then the next step is to get therapists assigned that can work with your child. And that took additional time too. It actually took quite a while to find a speech therapist, because now you're looking for a speech therapist who specifically is willing to take the time to do this Babel bootcamp training. And so the way we were able to get Elliot assigned a speech therapist is because we knew a family, the Tanaka family, who, shout out to them because they're wonderful. We've been put in touch with them because they're somewhat close to us in distance. And their child is very close to Elliot's age.
And he has galactosemia. And so we were put in touch with them, and they have a therapist that he works with for speech.
A speech therapist, yeah.
Who's done the Babel Bootcamp training.
And so then we brought that speech therapist name to our service coordinator, who made sure like she could be set up as a vendor for the Westside Regional Center. But like, we had our first session with her in July, and this process started in February.
Right.
So
it takes time.
It can take a
long time.
It took a long time for us. We can only speak to our experience. But if there's one thing that I wish we did differently in all of this, it's just that we started the process sooner.
Right.
I think in my mind, like, it's like, oh, great, he's like 7 months old, he's 8 months old. Like, let's get services started, not realizing that like getting that application process started then means that like he won't really get services until like 2 or 3 months later.
Yeah, probably at the earliest. And I wish we had started at, 2-3 months. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about that type of thing and it's early, we would encourage you to start early if you can handle it. Now, obviously, when you have a 2-month-old or a 3-month-old at home, it's really, really hard to do all that. And you're probably still reeling from a diagnosis. And all of that is really hard. But we do look back wishing that we had started a little bit earlier. And
if like, also I just want to say like, we can be resources too. If you're like, can you help me find the law for my state? Like,
I don't know
what research papers did you send in? How should I type this up? Like,
the Galactosemia podcast at gmail.com is open for anybody to write in that needs help with anything. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can't help or we can't help. We can probably find people who can.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, he's getting those services, and honestly, like, everyone we've met has been fantastic. We learned such interesting like tips on how to support his growth. Even like when he was just pulling himself up to stand, like, hold him at his hips instead of, like, it was just every single
just like little tips here and there
tips here and there. And then to have somebody come into every week and be like, wow, he's doing this and he wasn't doing that last week. Like, when you're seeing your own child every day, you don't maybe notice like the bigger leaps that they're making. And so
and
it's
I
been
will
great.
say,
we're really happy.
Even with the speech therapy, even though we just recently started that, having someone watch videos of him and you describe what he's doing and then giving you suggestions on
what to do next,
what sounds to try next is really important.
Which Elliot has his first 2 words.
Yes, he does.
Ryan was very proud of his very first word.
Ball.
He loves
specifically
balls.
Basketball.
Loves basketball. So it was his whole birthday party theme. And then, of course, with Remy running around, his second word was bound to be dog.
And the way he says them is ball and da.
Yeah, his words.
Ba, bow.
But he says them so intentionally. He points to Remy and goes, da. The G's got to sneak in there, but he's got them.
So that's it. That's services for Elliot, and it was really, really a long process, a difficult process sometimes, hard to understand if you're not familiar with that world a lot. I learned a ton, but something that definitely, hopefully, can be a resource for others The other thing you wanted to talk about was foods.
Yeah. So Elliot started his solid food journey in about 5.5 months.
Yep.
Ryan had a really hard time with it.
I did. If I had to say one word that described it for me, it would be scary.
And not because of the galactosemia dietary
Not
restrictions.
At all. It had nothing to do with galactosemia.
It had to do with the gag reflex.
I was talking to another new parent not that long ago, and they were saying, like, yeah, no one tells you how scary it's going to be. And they were right. No one told me that it would be the scariest thing out of the entire first 12 months was watching him learn how to eat, because his gag reflex is at the front of his mouth. Doesn't know how to chew. Doesn't have any teeth.
We also did do like a baby-led feeding approach, so he was getting like larger chunks of like
and I'm just watching him
soft food.
I will be honest about this. I had to turn away and get out of the room a lot of times. I couldn't be there for it. And I also think, like we've talked about this, I have a proclivity for choking, and that I'm very scared of it.
Yeah.
And I choked a couple of times when I was a kid, and almost had really bad experiences with that. So it was tough for me.
I stayed there and helped him.
Exactly.
And I actually feel like in the beginning, when I was like steaming sweet potatoes or giving a very soft avocado, it's like, those foods are safe for him. But there were a few times at the grocery store that became very overwhelming for me shopping for him. Because once we did decide like, okay, like let's try a baby food jar or pouch, or like what other things can we give him, once we started like branching out, even just like puffs, like now you're in the grocery store and you're reading the labels really carefully. And I can remember there's this one time where it's like I almost was like I was in the baby food section, I was like looking at the food on the shelf, and it like, instead of it being these like individual things, it became almost like a safe, not safe. Like Elliot can have, Elliot can't have, like, and the sections that were just like, anything in this section, Elliot can't have, anything in this section, Elliot can't have. It became very sad. Like I was overwhelmed in that moment, thinking about like how exhausting it is to, be reading everything so carefully, and then when you do see that ingredient that makes it not safe for him, it's like, you feel like he has to miss out on stuff. And to the credit of these baby food manufacturers, there are a lot of stuff out there. I was also at the same time pleasantly surprised by how much
dairy-free stuff
is available to him.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to include that we did discover that Elliot has a peanut allergy as well.
Yeah. So you can't have peanuts or
So
dairy.
we have to add that to the list of things we have to look out for.
Yeah. A lot of purple sweet potato.
We gave him a lot of purple sweet potato. And then they went out of season, but they're back soon. So we'll be amping that up again. He loves his berry. He's really not a picky eater, to be honest. Our son eats a lot. Not a picky eater. He just wants to be in control.
He wants to feed himself.
He wants to feed himself. And then a big milestone that we made in his food journey too was like the first time like we gave him like restaurant food.
Yeah.
I think it was sweet potato fries, and the amount of times that I asked and confirmed.
Still ask every time we go to a restaurant, like, and we're lucky we live in LA, but I mean, so what I'm talking to Amber Jones soon. She lives in Oklahoma, and we went back to Oklahoma for the 4th of July. This was a month ago. And I remember when we went to the restaurant we went to with him, the choices were
slim.
even the few choices they had, they were like, but even that I know. It's like I feel like we're so lucky living in Los Angeles where we can. It's not an uncommon thing for people to ask for dairy-free options or to even have a completely whole vegan restaurant.
Right. Exactly. And just like when the little menu has like the V for vegan, like
Right.
you can, and then you still confirm, but like it does make it easier. And so that became learning to navigate restaurants was like very empowering as well.
And it's still something that we continue to learn how to navigate.
Yeah. And there was even one time we ordered breakfast and like confirm dairy free. And then the toast came out with butter on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Or we went to the fish market and the waitress that we had at first was like, yeah, the fried fish is dairy free. You don't have to worry about it. And good thing that you also put it in on
when we ordered it.
On the phone order, because then the other waitress came out and was like, just so
The
you
breading
know, the
has
breading
dairy.
has dairy, so we'll do the seared fish.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
you need to tell that other waitress because she didn't know.
Yeah. You learn a lot through those experiences.
Yeah.
But, you know, we found a couple of good things. Spinach littles.
Spinach
are
littles
dairy-free.
are huge.
And he loves them.
Love spinach littles. If you have recommendations from your little one.
Yeah, send them along. Once
Send
Upon
them
a
along.
Farm makes dairy-free smoothie pouches if your kid's a pouch lover.
Yep.
Yeah.
Berries, all the berries. Kids
Yeah.
love berries. He loves blackberries specifically.
So now tomorrow we have Elliot's 1-year appointment with his genetics team, and that includes his nutritionist. And I'm eager to ask her, you know, after 1 year, they don't need formula anymore. And so I'm eager to ask her, like, if she has any recommendations on dairy-free milks, because
Yep.
I think it's going to be important for us to find like a fortified one
Yeah, I think
to get calcium and vitamin
what
D.
I've seen on the Facebooks, and you saw this too, was Ripple was
Ripple, and
recommended.
I think one of the almond milks that's fortified. But that would be another thing, or like a soy, I don't know. If you have any recommendations.
Yeah, leave a comment. Let
Leave a
us know.
comment.
Maybe I'll ask Dr. Van Kalkar too, or well, Chanel, but Dr. Van Kalkar is the galactosemia expert one.
A
so.
dietitian or nutritionist.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring some leftover dairy-free cupcakes from Elliot's birthday party to the team tomorrow.
Yep.
So we can celebrate with them as well. They've been there since the start.
So that's the update so far. This is a little bit of a shorter episode, just because we already recorded for 30 minutes before this.
And it's way past my bedtime.
And it's way past both of our bedtime. So thank you for tuning in to the Galactosemia podcast. We've got a couple exciting episodes coming up.
Yeah, before you explain that, I also just want to give one last reflection.
Yeah.
Just from the past year, how wonderful the Galactosemia community is. I mean, like, the open arms that were there when we got Elliot's diagnosis and every step along the way. When you started this podcast, the immediate yeses you got to coming on and sitting and interviewing, the support, like the messages you get from listeners, the fact you were invited to that
Bridge Bio thing.
Bridge Bio Lab, like, I just feel like it really is a special community.
Yeah. I was talking to Nicole Casale, the president of the Galactosemia Foundation, when we were on this thing, and she was saying to the people we were talking to that she's learned in the Galactosemia community, because it's so rare, oftentimes it can feel so isolating. And that isolation can be really, really hard to deal with. And I think that is so true, because without this podcast, without really making an effort to make the connections, that, first of all, it's reciprocated so easily, but to be able to just like make those connections is so important, because otherwise it is very, very isolating, and it can be very scary because you just don't know. Like we've said so many times, galactosemia can affect all the kids in all the different ways. Like it's such a spectrum of ways that it affects kids. And so, you're second guessing yourself. You're wondering, especially if you're a new parent, you're doing that anyway. And now you're adding the layer of galactosemia on top of it. So shout out and thank you to everyone in the Galactosemia community that's talked to us or been there or listened to an episode or continues to listen, and just it's been great getting to know people.
Alone.
Yeah. So, coming up, we've got an episode with Amber Jones, like I said, advocate, Oklahoma mom. We've got an episode with some of the Bridge Bio team. It's been an interesting experience with the Bridge Bio team, just in terms of like, I've been wanting to talk to them on the record on an episode for a long time, but with pharma, that legal stuff can get in the way, and so I'm having to kind of weed through some of that, and more to come on that. We'll see where that goes. We're going to talk to Dr. Judy soon, and some of her, the people that her collaborators, people that she works with. They just released a new study that they did that we're going to talk about, and talking to Maureen Bell soon, a patient that has been living with galactosemia for many, many years, has talked in front of Congress, and a big advocate for the Galactosemia Foundation and just all the different galactosemia things. So, talking to all of them soon, and those episodes will be coming up. We were on a little bit of a hiatus, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but hopefully getting out of that hiatus and putting some more episodes up soon. So
I'm excited to listen.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.